I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we set up a fusion reactor, something that might have been possible, but we do it in today's episode. So I hope you guys are ready. So let's pretend for a moment that we are in a civilization where we have accessed fusion reactors. Because today I am going to be diving in for the first time here in All the Mods 9 and all mod packs. I've never touched the fusion reactor from Mechanism, but we should be able to do this today. I'm going to do a lot of research and try and gather as much information as I can to provide it back to you guys, and hopefully we can get to producing nearly 200 million FE per tick. I'm kind of like, I gotta calm down. Why do I need all of this power, you might be asking? For this, the antimatter production. That is the main reason we need that much power, as I plan on using other power generation sources for everything outside of this. But if we can get this set up and we can get that power generation feeding into this and supplying it, oh, this will be the perfect setup. However, I have never made this fusion reactor, so if I make mistakes along the way, be sure to let me know down in the comments below, as that is how I learn. I learn from you guys most of the time. So give me all of your tips down there, if I don't end up making one of the best air-cooled setups. Now, Google has this really nice feature right now that I just got access to that basically allows you to use their AI to search through posts and Reddit posts and tons of other information built into Google. So it's kind of amazing. And right now it is telling me that the fusion reactor, if I was to go air-cooled, has a maximum injection rate, which we'll talk about here in a minute, of 98, which means that I am going to need to feed this at least 49, close to 50 millibuckets per tick of the fuels, both fuels, I would assume, so that way it can combine them together, essentially producing DT fuel. So how are we going to go about doing this whole process? Now, first of all, I'm going to need all of these components. It does say I need some reactor glass, some fusion reactor ports, some fusion reactor frames, and the fusion reactor controller all in itself. To be able to get this, you do need a fission reactor setup, because you do need some of the pellets in order to make all of these components. And well, I think I have enough of those pellets. This just makes too many. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to how we're actually going to be producing this fuel, which inevitably is DT fuel, which is two different fuels combined together. We are going to be separating though this. We're not going to be generating DT fuel and sending it directly, even though we might do that here in the future. Because it does say that pumping 1,000 millibuckets of that into an air-cooled will be what allows us to produce the 200 million. So we'll probably do some experimenting with this, and we'll first try out seeing how much we can actually generate by just passively sending both of these in and letting the machine do it. So we're going to need deuterium and tritium. Now, both of these are actually really easy to get. And I'm going to go over some numbers to hopefully help you understand how much you're going to need to hit these numbers. But the electrolytic separator, if we do everything modular like we've been doing with Mechanism by using the quantum entangle porters to kind of allow us to build up on machines, we should be fine. But this really is just coming from a water pump. So heavy water then gets split into oxygen and deuterium inside of an electrolytic separator, just like we would do water to get hydrogen and oxygen. Now, deuterium is the thing that we need. So we could easily set up a modular system where we feed the heavy water into the back, and we end up on the two sides, get these two things as a product, which we do need more oxygen. I'm sure we're gonna need more oxygen as we go, but we can always expel excess oxygen. Now, how do we get heavy water? Now, heavy water, it says right here, 10 millibuckets of heavy water can be extracted from the water source via an electric pump with a filter upgrade installed. And when it says 10 millibuckets, this is when it's max upgraded. So what I found from using the wiki is a single pump can only, even when max upgraded by having 6 speed upgrades in it, 6, by the way, is the best amount to put in there because any more just consumes more power and doesn't increase the pump rate. But if you have 6 upgrades inside of a pump, it should only be able, the one pump, for example, this right here from water, it should only ever, and this one's max upgraded, be able to pull out a maximum of 10 millibuckets per tick. So we need to keep that number in mind, because we're going to have to keep those numbers and values in our head, because that's how we're going to determine essentially how fast we're producing this stuff. Because getting lithium, which is the other material we're going to need, is very easy, and we should be able to hit those numbers pretty quick with just giving more heat. But this one is really reliant on how many pumps we have. Now, to hit the maximum injection rate, which we'll talk about here in a second, by sending the two different types of getting the just simple millibuckets per tick into it, that's not going to be too difficult for us to achieve, as really we only need like 5 pumps to hit that, right? Because it's about 50 millibuckets. So 5 pumps could easily get that, but that's not going to produce the 200 million that we're going to need. Instead, we would need to be able to get 1,000 millibuckets, right? And so we would need enough pumps to give us 1,000 millibuckets. So yes, if you've done the math correctly, that means we would need 100 pumps, all with max upgrades, 6-speed upgrades, max energy upgrades, and then we also need filters on every single one of these pumps, because that's what allows this pump to actually pull up heavy water instead of regular water, is by adding this filter right here. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and get 8 of these set up. This is going to make sure that I have enough to at least try out using the max injection rate. Like I said, we're going to talk about that here in a moment. I know I keep hinting at it, but I'm placing down quantum entangle porters. This is going to collect our heavy fuel, so our heavy water. And then I need to send that heavy water into this electrolytic separator. And so I think what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to use another quantum, and I'm going to send that into the back, just like this. And then we'll have 2 more quantums. I know we use a lot of quantums, but believe me, this is way easier to keep track of everything. We are going to go ahead and select our heavy water, and let's make sure that everything is set up correctly, right? So heavy water down here, we'll set, and we need to make sure that the fluids is set the front as output, just like it is. And so that should automatically send the heavy water. And then we're getting the deuterium, as you see right here. And we need to send that over here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to specify, I think these are already set up. So the left and right are automatically set to output. We just need to take the name of it and apply it here, and that should automatically start accepting. So now with our deuterium being made, and as you can see that this is definitely not maxing out by any means, but it is a 1-to-1 conversion. We have 2 millibuckets of heavy water, then gets turned into 2 millibuckets of deuterium. So we have to keep that in mind. But with this rate, we should be generating at least 50. Well, we're actually generating more than 50. It should be 80 deuterium every tick. That's what it should be with our current amount of pumps, which is, remember, 10 millibuckets each. So hopefully it's not too confusing. But let's move on to the next part. And that is something we already have set up. So I already have 2 thermal evaporator controllers, and these are the smallest ones you can make that run passively by just having solar generators on here. No need to have anything heating it up other than the solar panels. I don't know if that's going to be enough later on. We might have to heat this up further with some external heaters. But for right now, this is also just pulling at water. So we are just feeding water into this, and then this one, after it makes brine, is routed over to this one. And we've been using this to make lithium. But we're going to be changing up our setup here because no longer do we need this chemical crystallizer. I think at this point, we have probably got enough lithium dust for right now. We might have to set this back up later because I do know some of the ATM Star things are going to require more of this lithium or some more of these batteries. These things right here cost quite a bit of lithium, but this is already set up. So all we need to do is just take this liquid lithium that this is producing, and we just need to send this over to our solar neutron activator, which we have right here, which will constantly run. So this is another quantum entangle porter thing. So the entangle porter, all we have to do is set this up, and we'll just name it lithium. So just like that, we now have liquid lithium, or sorry, gas lithium, because this is turning the liquid into gas. And then that should be running. As you see, though, this is only 25 millibuckets. I don't know if that is the exact rate. It does seem to be a little higher than 25 millibuckets per tick, but that's the limitation of the decondensator, which I think is actually running at max speed. So we might need more of these in the future. And this is where I should probably modularize this. So that way we can just hook up a quantum entangle porter here to receive the output. That way we can add more condensers. We will see though, if this is going to function the way I'm thinking. Hopefully this is enough to at least test out our first thing. So back on our solar neutron, I'm going to go ahead and get the tritium set up. And then I just need to select on this list, if I can find it. Sometimes it's getting harder to find. We need to select the lithium, and we need to make sure that under the gases tab, we have this set to auto eject, and make sure we have the output set over here. So with that, that should be filled up, and that is producing tritium right here. And it looks like it's producing 75, which is enough to at least get this up and rolling, I think. So now for the fun part, let's actually build this multi-block, and we're also going to need to get into lasers. Because of the way that this works, it's kind of interesting, and I love how it says freaking laser beams. Oh man, I actually just watched that movie. Oh, Austin Powers is so timeless. It's so good. But anyways, if we're going to need this laser focus matrix, which requires reactor glass, a lot of reactor glass used in all of this. But yes, we are going to need laser amplifiers and some lasers for this. I love how he just crafted a laser and it says, pew, pew, craft a laser. Oh God. Now, before we fully build this, there is still one more thing that we're going to have to do, and that is combine the deuterium and also tritium to make DT fuel, because we actually need to fill a holorem with some DT fuel first. So we will have to get this completed. So this is actually pretty easy to do. We just need to simply combine the deuterium. So we just need to go in here and find our deuterium, which should be at the bottom. Select that, which will fill this up. And then over here, once we set the outputs, that is, and then we'll set the tritium over here. And then we'll make sure to go under our gases section and make sure this is set to output. So that will automatically send it to here and then out to here. Now, once we have enough, I am going to turn this off, but later on, this might actually be the way we produce this. And we might be setting this up in this way, so that way we'll have that in the future, but we'll set that to output. Now this together will end up producing DT fuel, and I should be able to fill this up, I believe, just by putting this in here. And so I can go ahead and actually turn this off for right now, so we save our fuel. And now we have a holorem that is filled with DT fuel, which is going to be needed to jumpstart our fusion reaction. Now, some things to note about this fusion reaction. I believe this is incredibly safe. The only thing that the only thing that can happen is if it runs out of plasma and you're not maintaining the heating rates, it will just stop. So the only problem is to get it jump started requires a lot of power. So it says that it costs, I believe, 400 million FE to jumpstart it. So it does take a lot of power, and that's your kind of hiccup, right? That'll be kind of painful if you're not supplying it with enough resources. But I don't think you have to worry about it exploding. That's the fission reactor. So keep in mind the fission reactor causes a big boom. But in our case, we should be fine. This should not cause any problems. So now I have everything I think I need. We just need the fission reactor frame. And the nice thing is there's a ponder in here, so we can actually see how this thing is sort of made. It doesn't seem too complicated at all to sort of put this together. Looks like the controller goes on top, and then one of the sides ends up outputting the power, and we end up shooting lasers into one of the sides. So you can see the structure built right here. It's not a very tall thing. It's like 5 blocks tall, so it's kind of small. I don't know why I have always been so scared of building this thing. It's not like it's a super difficult thing to put together. But I think just the lack of seeing what it looks like and knowing the actual size of this thing, I always thought this thing was way bigger than it is. But yeah, no. And I thought it was dangerous to set up. It's actually not dangerous at all to set up, which is kind of the hilarious part about it. But yes, this thing right here is super simple. Look how big this thing is, right? This is basically it. I think, yeah, this is it. I mean, we just got to get the corners in, and this is a completed multi-block structure that is going to produce us millions of RF per tick. I think the only thing left to do for me is to put in the ports. So this will be our 2 fuel ports. And then this back here will be an output port. We're going to configure that in a minute. And then I'm going to set this side. I don't think it has to be on this side, but I'm going to set this to be the laser matrix, which we're going to set the lasers up here in a moment. But yeah, up top, I think the only thing to make it a multi-block is to put in the reactor controller. And it is successfully built. I think we're ready. We are now here. So now all I have to do is configure the laser setup, which is honestly not too bad. Before the laser setup, let's go ahead and put the laser amplifier on here. And I believe we need this red dot to be focused into the actual port. So we need to turn this, which by default, let's go ahead and put this into wrench mode, rotate mode. And we'll rotate this, should be facing this way. There we go. So now we have it rotated correctly. The red dot should be facing into the laser focus matrix. Now, another thing I want to do is I want to put this into normal mode so that way we can fire this with a redstone button. So let's get a button. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a stone button. I think that'll be pretty nice. And I think we can just use a button on this. Maybe I'll need a block behind it or something like that. That'll probably work. So let's go ahead and get some concrete. Right, might as well. And we'll put this laser button here. So I'll have this set up and go one more down. And this should be the block that can jumpstart it. Just like this. And this is temporary, by the way, because you should be able to remove this if you have a sufficient supply to this. This should not be a problem. So that will kick off the reaction, the sort of chain that will have happen. All right, and so what else do we need? Oh yeah, we need lasers to send it power. So let's place a block here and a block here. And I'm going to use 2 lasers. The more lasers you use, you got to keep in mind that it does have power. And oh yeah, by the way, they can break blocks. So keep that in mind. Let's see, we need to rotate this the other way. Nope, 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 nope. How many? How do I get this to point the correct way? There we go. So yes, these lasers, when they're in my inventory, they are building up resources, which is kind of scary. I actually want this to be placed, let's see, like this. Maybe I can just get it to going the correct direction right away. There we go. So now that is going to fill up, and we are going to need both of these lasers filling up. And I can just go ahead and put some points on here. Let's get a couple points. Nice. And we'll set these. And we want their transfer limit to be a lot lower than what it currently is. So max transfer limit, let's just do 100,000. And we'll select main. So that's doing 100,000 at a time. What I really need to do is turn off my other point until this is filled up. But let's go ahead and set this one yet again to 100. 100,000. Just to make sure we're not draining all of our power. And we got to let this build up. So this is going to build up, and it needs at least 400 million FE in this in order to start this reaction. But we're not completely there yet. The other thing we need to do is get our fuels set up on the front. And we definitely want our plug on the back. So let's go ahead and make this an export. We need this set to configuration mode. Oh boy, configuration. There we go. And so now that's set to export. I'm going to put a plug on here, and that plug is going to be set to the main in, which is red, which is perfect. And then, yeah, just some quantum entangle porters telling this to send to the back. So we are almost there. I have my deuterium on this side and my tritium on this side. When we open this up, we can actually see, or we can actually see it on the controller, that we have these fuels set in here. Now, under the heat section, this is where we're going to see all kinds of information. And our fuel, this is where we're going to actually edit our current injection rate. So the current injection rate is 2, and we can see more information about that. And apparently at an injection rate of 2, we're going to be producing 400,000 FE per tick. Now, apparently at the current injection rate, or the amount that we're producing, we should be able to go up to an injection rate of 98. So if I set this to 98, before doing anything, we should be able to see that at an injection rate of 98, which should use 50 millibuckets each per tick, and hit enter, we should be able to see more stats, and we're going to be producing about 19.6 million FE per tick. Now, apparently, you can just pump in raw deuterium with one input, and that is where you can start to produce over 200 million FE per tick, right? But we'll need at least 1,000 millibuckets. So at its maximum injection rate, which is what we just set up with this cooled, we should be good. Now, I don't want to put it there just yet. Let's go ahead and set it to 2 for right now. just to go ahead and see how this all functions and start to see what happens as we increase. But yes, this is going to need to hit that 500 million. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this off for right now. Over here, I'm going to shut this down and change what is currently being sent to this. So we should be fine for right now. I'm just going to simply remove this. I just got to be careful because I don't want to break this machine as it stores radioactive material. So I've removed that, so we can now send, I'm going to send 500,000 each. So we're hitting that, that cap there. So 500 each, that should do 1 million. And I don't know if this will use 500, but we should start seeing this going up even faster. I think understanding this part is probably the hardest part of the process. And just kind of waiting for this to fill up. You could add more lasers, I guess. So the more lasers you have on this, the faster it will generate. But yes, getting that 400 million, I keep saying 500, but 400 million mark is where we need to be. Now there still is one more thing we have to do. We do need the hologram pretty much in here. So this needs to go into this inventory right here. And that is what's going to jumpstart the reaction. Is that DT fuel in the middle, which is going to be super heated from the lasers. And then it should be able to, like I said, maintain itself. Also, another thing, don't jump in front of the lasers. Like, it's freaking laser beams, all right? It will annihilate you if you step in front of them. I just love, though, the funny part about this is pretty much all coming from water. Yeah, we're going to be generating power essentially from water, superheated water. Okay, so I did a little bit more research and I was looking at trying to hit that max peak that we can do just inside of this machine. And I noticed that I'm actually going to need a lot more lithium than I'm currently producing because this is actually divided by 10. So I did hook up a resistive heater and I'm running a heat pipe into a valve to even boost this to its max. And right now this can produce 180 millibuckets per tick of brine. It tells me right here. Now I need to divide that by 10 because this machine over here pretty much does that. It divides it by 10 and we will only get, for every 10 millibuckets, we'll only get 1. So you see the output rate over here is 18 millibuckets. That's kind of a problem because I need at least 49 millibuckets. And this is definitely a bottleneck. Now, one way that I can fix this is by just making this thing taller. So I'm also giving it max heat, which I'm just using 1,000 or 800 FE per tick to feed this with heat. I just need to make this thing taller. And by making it taller, it is increasing the production rate. And I believe I can take this thing all the way up 18 blocks tall. So I've kind of refined the setup, and just by making it taller allows us to produce more, which is exactly what I need. So yeah, the resistive heater connected to this. Oh yeah, this is how we're definitely going to expand this. And like I said, this can go 18 blocks tall and we've only gone like 7 blocks. So yeah, pretty cool. Now we are very, very close to being able to trigger this. And this has taken, I would say, a good hour to charge at its current rate. If I had more power, which we will once I have this up, this wouldn't be as big of a problem. And it might be a good idea to leave this here and let it charge up to its max potential before taking all of this down. While I'm waiting for that to continue charging, just some quick math here. The production rate for this, to be able to produce enough fuel for our tritium, which is this stuff over here, I would need an evaporation tower or towers that can produce probably 10 of them, but I don't know what the max is going to be once we get this max size, but 600 millibuckets per tick is what we're currently at. We would need this to be at 10,000 millibuckets per tick total, as that gets cut in half, or not cut in half, but divided by 10, and then produced over here, which I believe this could support. So we could get away with one evaporation plant that is just perfect for producing the lithium. But for the water to turn into brine, we would need a lot more of that. And so we would be looking at having a lot of maxed out versions of these, probably 3, 4, or 5 of them. Now that's just to be able to pump in the 1,000 millibuckets of DT fuel, because that would be the ultimate way to produce millions of RF. So it's time. It's time. And as the quest says, I think we're ready. I'm pretty sure we're ready. We are now at 400 million, which is now stored up in here. So at least 400 million, we're ready to shoot. We're checked. I think we have everything ready to go. Just a quick double check recap. Make sure we have the thing in. Yes, we have the hologram in there with our DT fuel tin stored. And now we're ready to push the button. So 3, 2, 1, we're firing my lasers and it is running. Okay. I think. That is so scary looking, but it's also really cool. Our plug should be receiving power, which we are. Let's make sure we bypass any limits. I think it is currently heating up. You see the power is ramping up. And at this rate, it should produce 400,000. So let's go to the heat and we'll see the plasma. So long as the plasma number is going up, we should be good. And we to hit the max power, we're going to have to hit a plasma of 300,000. And then also the case temp will be 200. And so we'll see that as it continues to rise, we should get to that point where we will start producing this. So I think with this though, we can still also increase, because this is only doing a 2. I think we can at least probably run at a 20 with our current amount of fuel we're producing over here. So that's the main thing, the tritium, that I'm most worried about. But I think that we should be producing plenty of lithium to be able to handle that. It does seem like this is producing 30 millibuckets and this is producing 30 mil. So we're producing about 60 millibuckets. So I think we have enough to run it at its maximum that we can run here. So we could try and get it all the way up to, at least with its combination of injection here, the injection method, we should be able to get it all the way up to 98 technically. I'm scared to turn this all the way up to 98. But if I do, notice this dipped down a little bit. But if I check my rates, our deuterium is going down. Okay, so maybe we can't handle an injection rate that high. I notice my deuterium is dwindling, right? Is it dwindling? Yes, it is dwindling. And then my tritium's doing fine. So we definitely are losing out more on the deuterium, and it might be more because, oh, it's because I think this, you know what? This should be handling it, but that rate is definitely not correct. So we definitely want to lower that rate for right now. Let's do 50 for right now. And that should be fine. Like 50 should be good. But I think our issue right now is making sure we have enough heavy water. And we should be able to we should be producing enough heavy water. So I solved the problem, and what we have here is we now have down here another row of pumps. So I now have a total of 16 pumps running, and this is producing more than we actually need at this point. So this is actually working, and I was able to get the rate up to 98, and it seems to be working just fine. So if all is well, and this is actually correct, we are now at an injection rate of 98, and we are producing almost 2 million. So I can take all 19 of this, which I would like to do. If I can take just 19 of this and leave the 600,000 for everything else for right now, and send that over to my other machine, over to our antimatter machine, I think we'll be golden. So we can currently see our fill rate. Now, something we need to keep in mind is we do not want this to overfill. If this overfills, then we'll have a problem, a big problem. There is a way to solve this, but if this overfills and this fills up and we have no more space for power storage, this will shut off and we'd have to jump start it again in order to get it to work. So that is very uncomfortable feeling, but I do have a way to solve that. One is we can just go ahead and make sure this is constantly being used. Another is a trash can. So we can actually have a point. And this is kind of interesting, the way that we can do this. But what we can do is we can go ahead and say that if there's nowhere else for power to go on the main input, like if there's nowhere for the storage, for it to go into storage, then void it, right? So that's what we want to do. So a point is going to help us in this endeavor. So we just need to get a trash can. And for right now, I'm just going to put it here. This is an ultimate one. This can hold anything, but you would want a power one. And then we'll set this point. And what we need to do is we need to set our priority, I believe, to -1. So this is going to make it a lower priority than the top one, so than everything else. And so when we have this on, we'll notice nothing is going in there yet. But as soon as this fills up and there's nowhere for this power to go, it will then go into the trash can. We definitely want to make sure to bypass the limit. So anything extra we generate will end up going into here. That will prevent this from shutting off and will prevent a massive meltdown. So just that's a very important thing. And I know it only took a second to show it, but it is very, very important. So let's go ahead and get 19 million onto this. So we need 19 million. So all we got to do is add a 9, and that is 19 million now going in this. And look how fast we are now processing this polonium. And at this point, we might have enough to keep up with our fusion, our fission reactor. We'll find out if we start to run out of polonium here. But we do have polonium built up inside this, and it does seem like we are now running out of polonium. So good. So that means we do have enough power to keep up with our fission reactor's rate. And we already have our first antimatter. Look at that. But yes, we're going to be producing antimatter now very, very quickly. And this is going to be fantastic. And now we have a passive power generation that's generating 19 million just associated with this alone. Oh, that's fantastic. It could go all the way up, though, even higher. With a bit more machines, you can get over 200 million. Now, I still want to set up the industrial foregoing way of doing things, and I want to use that for like all of our other stuff and utilize this mainly for antimatter production. But man, that thing is cool looking. You know, I'm honestly pretty proud of myself as well for setting this up and getting everything up and running and correctly, and I didn't break anything. So yes, also I really got to thank the AI for searching all that information for me, because that made it so easy. Oh man, Google searching was really, really nice. Honestly, for all my hard work, we should definitely take out this antimatter pellet and let those quests complete. Impossible material, the antimatter. Oh boy, and our quest is complete. Now, it does say we need to fill this with 50 million FE. And to do that, we can get a task screen. And we should be able to import power into a task screen. And I'm going to do that, honestly, from this connection node up here. And so if we place this down, we can search for this task. And there is one for 50 million. And we click that. And let's go ahead and actually take this off for a moment. And let's just put that node here. And we're going to notice how quickly that goes up. And the task is done. Wait, does this have a limit? This is definitely, the screen itself has a limit. And is limited by that amount of power. That is going to take a long time. You know what? We're gonna put that right there. And we're gonna let that be for now. I think I might put this screen somewhere else. That's going to take forever. This has a limit of 1,000 FE per tick. That is going to take absolutely forever. But I do have it running on here, and at some point it will eventually complete. It's just going to take a long time. So, conclusion. As of right now, I think that burning at that rate that we're currently at the 98 injection rate, is working just fine. And as the quest sort of states here, we can go even higher than that. And it mentions it in the in-game power source tab right here. So it does mention that you can go ahead and use the DT fuel like I had talked about before and pump it in directly, but it's going to require 500 millibuckets per tick of each of the fuels in order to sustain it at its maximum potential, which is going to be producing roughly 200 million FE per tick, which is like a massive gain, 10 times the power that we're already producing right now. That is pretty insane numbers and might be something that we strive for in the future. For right now, this is more than fine, I think. And definitely whenever I start producing 25 million FE per tick from another source, oh, this is just going to be another nice little check mark. And I'm super happy. I am like, I've never set this up before. So I'm really proud of myself for getting this set up. And hopefully you'll learn something along the way with me in doing so. So, guys, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, as these videos do take a long time to make and definitely come up with ideas for each episode. So if you wouldn't mind clicking that subscribe button and also commenting down below. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I would really love to hear some feedback on ways that I could potentially improve these setups. I would love to hear from you guys. And, well, with that being said, also give this video a huge thumbs up. Don't forget to ring that notification bell. And it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Tupper, one of those. Thank you so much for your amazing support, by the way, over on the Discord and becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible, allowing me to sort of extend how long I play these mod packs, especially as views start to dwindle. This is definitely one way that keeps things up and running, while ad revenue can be super random. So thank you guys so very much, and check out the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and join the amazing crew today. Oh, it's been fantastic. Hopefully you liked today's episode, and I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.